Welcome into a live edition of the Casey Laboratory presented by Emprise Bank, member FDIC, our amazing, wonderful, tremendous partners here at KC Sports Network, a day one partner of KC Sports Network. I'm here with my day one, Matthew Lane. Maddie, happy Monday.
Thank you. I appreciate you calling me your day one. I really look forward to your Valentine's Day gifts every single year. I appreciate them a lot. They're really thoughtful. You put a lot of work into them. I'm sorry that I just get you a card on the morning of, but it happens. But I do appreciate it. So thank you for calling me your day one, Kent.
It's post dated for February 14th, but because you live in North Carolina, I don't get it till like the 17th. Every year. Every year, just the
mail system. The mail system's tricky, I have the right idea in my mind, but that mail thing gets me every time.
It's the thought that counts, Matthew. Thank you. Thanks everyone hanging out with us tonight, though. We're really excited to be here. I mean, it's so much more fun to do these shows when there's actual Chiefs things happening. That is definitive. There's real things to break down as this training camp is off and rolling, and I cannot believe we are here. Real quick before we get too far down the rabbit hole, just as a reminder, a few teams left for the KCSN golf tournament at Creekmore. You can still sign up. You can still place a donation. Couple teams still available August 18th. So we're like 3 weeks out. So there's just a couple spots left. But all the proceeds are going to the KCSN Foundation. We got a lot of different things that we are cooking there. So please consider getting a team together, having a good time with us on a Monday, August 18th. All right, let's get into this show today. I am super
Before
excited.
We get started, hold on. Shout out Terry, shout out Tegan, shout out Bumpa, shout out Tony, shout out everybody else in chat. Everybody seems to be very excited to be here talking about Chiefs football again, honestly. You said it at the top, but I do think that people are generally a little bit more excited to listen to some football talk now that training camp for, I guess, every team, but especially our Kansas City Chiefs is kicking off now.
I think the vibe is absolutely shifted. And I think you start to see the palpable energy kind of starting to hit here. Yeah, it's starting to move towards that vibe, that energy, that the Chiefs season is really upon us. We're like a week and a half away from a game. I mean, it's a preseason game, but we're a week and a half away from the preseason game.
It's a late game, isn't it?
Is that the late game?
Is that the one that starts at like 9?
Is it? Oh no. Is it?
I don't know.
I think
No, it's not. It's the next one after that.
I think that's the show I'm doing solo.
Yeah, it's the second game against the Seahawks, where it starts at 10 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, Maddie will not stay up for that one.
Sure.
Could be Maddie's dream UFC fight. Won't stay up. The Super Bowl could start.
Okay, now hold on.
10
I'll stay up to a good main event that late, but I'm not gonna be podcasting about it because I'm gonna be laying in bed.
You always tap out before the main event whenever there's
not
a UFC
my favorite
part.
main events. Not my favorite ones. Just the boring ones.
Right. Week 2.
We're dilly-dallying and we have Chiefs stuff to get to.
We really do. And I think we'll start with this because this is the big news of the day. It continues to be something that was, I think, the biggest storyline of the entirety of the offseason. And it was, hey, like Josh Simmons, like very intrigued by this guy. Super talented. Chiefs are lucky to have this talent if he can return to what he was before a patellar injury that has sapped a lot of people of their talents and abilities and has not had the best of track records, blah, 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 blah. This from Jordan Schultz today. Josh Simmons is on track to be the Chiefs starting left tackle in week 1. That is the news. That is the trend. Jordan Schultz spoke to a Chiefs source today about rookie Josh Simmons. The team has been impressed with him all summer, and he's on track to start at left tackle in week 1, protecting Patrick Mahomes. Blindside. Simmons fell to pick number 32 due to a patella injury, but the Chiefs had no concerns, and it is paying off so far. Maddie, I know, like, hey, look, actions speak louder than words, right?
I, for one, am surprised the guy taking every rep and the first team left tackle is considered the starter, as you know, at this point. It's mind boggling that the only guy starting is doing that.
I know. And it's kind of like, and like, I think we've all kind of had our jokes about that. Right. And I think there's a lot of layers to this one. Right. So we haven't had a ton of visibility on the Josh Simmons situation throughout the summer. Right. And the introduction to a lot of Chiefs fans about Josh Simmons was, hey, this is a guy coming off a serious injury. The track record on the serious injury is not great. And sometimes, the player comes back and is just not the same that they were prior to the injury and may never return to that status, right? So we get introduced to this whole Josh Simmons experience in a way that's like, hey, you know what? Maybe it'll work, maybe it will don't, right? Maybe it won't, right? Like there's a little bit of concern, just baked into the whole thing. And during the summer, we really don't get a ton of updates. We don't really get a ton of news. We kind of get a little bit of an update at mini camp where, hey, Josh Simmons is back in full force and he's getting some reps with the ones in training camp or in mini camp. Hey, that's great. But, Jawan Taylor's not practicing. Jalen Moore is not practicing. We just got this flurry, this wave over the last couple of weeks of news surrounding Josh that kind of just, we haven't had the visibility on it. The Chiefs haven't really had to provide a ton of information on anything, right? They haven't really had to be super transparent about the Josh Simmons experience or anything like that. Why would they have to? Why would they want to? Maybe they want to keep expectations down like they do with all the rookies. But this last week has just been an absolute flurry of Josh Simmons news. And it's, hey, he's starting at left tackle at week one, which is, he's starting at left tackle for practice one, which is everything we all hoped for. All offseason, like, let's see how it goes. These are all positive signs. This is all encouraging. And then we get to day one, and he's there. He's the starting left tackle. He's getting all the reps with the ones. And then you're like, well, Jalen Moore, like he's playing right tackle. Maybe when Jawan Taylor gets back. No, they shut that down immediately too, right? It's still Josh Simmons hanging out over there. He's just the guy. I think there's been just because of, and if you're looking at last season and the last couple years, and the left tackle has been something that has ailed this team for so long, and it's kind of been like a sore subject for Chiefs fans, and it's been one of the things that's made things either challenging or kept them from winning a Super Bowl. To have all of those things just kind of appear to be in very good shape for the first time, all these emotions, all the suddenness of the news, the actions of the Chiefs really speaking a lot more loudly than any of the buzz that was coming out during the summer. Take all that into consideration. I get a little bit why there might be some there's a lot of energy surrounding this Josh Simmons story. And yeah, him even saying that he's on track to being the starting tackle. Yeah, all the actions seem to point towards that direction, but it's kind of fun to hear it cemented in some way that that's the direction that this thing is heading.
Listen, I didn't need there to be an announcement that he was expected to be a starter as of the end of July based on what we've seen, because he's the only guy taking reps. It's nice to see it, but it's even more nice to see it, just glimpses that we have seen come across the timeline on Twitter or on Facebook or Reddit or wherever you go get your Chiefs training camp news, right? Just seeing the clips out there of what Josh Simmons is doing has been unbelievably impressive. I don't need an announcement to come through and say, hey, he's starting to get really geeked out about what he's doing. And then talking to people that have been to camp or that are watching camp and know what's going on while they're actually there and they see all the plays and not just the specific ones that make it onto the internet, and hearing essentially everybody say the same thing. Yeah, there's 3 plays that made it out of practice today of Josh Simmons looking absolutely dominant. Guess what? So did every other rep while we were there. Nothing that he did throughout the entire day gave me any pause, any cause for concern that you aren't getting the type of player that, that we at least are not expecting right away, but that we are hopeful to get from him moving forward. So it's just all the reviews have been rave. I've heard almost nothing or anything negative. I know the refs have been pretty flag happy, I think, these first 2 days with pads on. And so I think there's been a couple times where he or plenty of other guys have been flagged, but nothing of real concern has come out from this camp at all. Nothing about the injury, nothing about the knee needing rest, nothing about, he needs to work on this. All we got is Andy Reid saying that he needs to keep cranking and that he's a young man. And so that's really, it's all been good from here. And it's just, I couldn't be more impressed with what we've seen. He just looks for the drills. I guess I'm moving this on from the week one starter aspect and just talking about how he looks at this point in time. It's something else, man. We said it the entire draft process, and I think everybody that follows the draft said it. He's natural, he's smooth, he moves like a left tackle, and like you can say those things. And I think a lot of people watch that and they get it once they watch him. But I think it's just even become more evident now after you take him out of the game of Ohio State, put him in a training camp environment where you are getting individual drills, one-on-one drills. You're getting these more isolated things, and those are not football. I don't mean to say those are football, but you can really see how he moves when you get to watch that. And here's a guy who's moving effortlessly through the entire range of motion that you're ever going to ask from an offensive tackle. But more than just being able to do the movements, because Kingsley could do the movements, but what you're getting is a guy that stays in perfect like body position the entire time. And then that's translating to the plays when they actually do throw contact. So it's been an impressive start to training camp for Josh Simmons. I'm sure here on every KCSN podcast over the past week, that's all anybody's talked about. And that's completely fine. That's all anybody wants to talk about. That's all I want to talk about. That's all you guys want to hear about. That's all good. So we could keep going for the next 55 minutes and I can talk more about Josh Simmons if we really need to.
I would if we had to. I will say, like, I think when you watch it, there's some players that get labeled project, right, at tackle, and like a Tyler Guyton, a Kingsley Suamataia, players like that are labeled projects that, like, there's a lot of traits to like, but hey, look, there's some balance issues. Like, he's not completely comfortable out there. He's got to work on his hand technique, all these kind of things, right? Well, that wasn't the label for Josh Simmons. He looked like a left tackle the second he put tape on in 2024. Like, he looked like an NFL tackle, the kind of player that like doesn't have just more finishing and polishing than it is like overhauling. And he's just come back and been that version of himself. He's been tremendous. He looks outstanding. He looks like an NFL starting caliber tackle. And not just that, like, he looks like one of those guys that gets mentioned in the top 10 when we do this debate. I mean, Matty already has him at number 1 for crying out loud, but
tell me I'm wrong.
He looks amazing. And it's just so exciting and so fun to see that the risk has paid off. Like, the Chiefs, there's been some of the conversation that they've been comfortable with the injury for him. Like, they got to make a decision on him after, evaluating the injury for a while, right? Like, they've had a chance to kind of look through that and see how things are going and see the progress. And they weren't afraid to do it and pull the trigger, and they're being paid handsomely. I will tell you, I've been so excited to watch the clips. I think I've equally been as excited to watch all the other fan bases and all the other fan bases content creators frustrated that the Chiefs got Josh Simmons. Because, like, there's been so many people that are just like, oh, I can't believe the Chiefs got this guy, irritated. Like, a lot of frustration out there from other fan bases that the Chiefs might have solved the biggest issue and they did it in the fashion that they did. So exciting. It's so exciting. And I can't wait to see his progress. It's definitely, there's a long way to go. But looking at what you've seen so far and seeing how comfortable and how balanced he is, his usage of hands, his body position, his framing, all those things. There's such great strides, and for being such a young guy, it's hard not to get too excited.
Go. I would say I just want to wrap up with like some Josh Simmons stuff. I do want to, I guess, got to get the receipts and stuff out there, and just about how kind of like what I'm thinking when I'm seeing him. You mentioned it there. It's like the balance, the way that he's able to move and cover substantial. Like, he looks and moves like one of the more athletic tackles in the NFL, but you can see him when he's getting to all these points, whether it's working in pass protection or the few times we see him climb to the second level, he's constantly in a good position. He's balanced. His base is wide, his hips underneath him. He's never lunging outside of his frame to make contact. He's getting everything framed essentially perfectly square, and he's not shooting his hands and getting to this midline of a defender's body. He's keeping them on the outside. He's constantly in the right body position, despite showing like the ability to cover like a substantial amount of ground, which is already phenomenal in itself. But the thing that's really standing out to me more than that, and I'm not trying to dig into technique or anything like that during training camp, we don't know what they're working on, but the strength and the power, the way that he is creating an unbelievable amount of torque without having to rock his hips back or shift his hips back and then shoot his chest forward. Like think about trying to push something as hard as you can. It's natural to want to drop your hips and push them behind you and then lunge your shoulders forward as you drive in to make contact. That's where you're probably going to try to push harder. He's not even doing that. He's quite simply just taking on contact, digging his feet into the ground, creating torque through his feet into the ground, up underneath, winning leverage with his hands, and stopping Charles Omenihu, pushing Mike Dana around, throwing Ashton Gelati, the big lotto, to the ground. Like, he's not having to get outside of his frame or change, his center of gravity at all to make all this stuff happen. So he is just, it's been incredibly impressive what he's doing. I am really excited to see him once we kind of get into the preseason and into the real game, because I see no reasons to be, I'm sure there's going to be a learning curve in the NFL, but there is no reason right now to sit here and go like, hey, I don't know if the Chiefs got this one right. I don't know if this is going to work out. This is kind of like going down the Creed Humphrey path where you're just like, I got nothing negative to say. It's going to work. It's just a matter of how quickly does it work.
I think that's a great way of framing it. I think that's a great way of kind of putting things, but yeah, I think there's a little bit of kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop, I think, in Chiefs Kingdom right now from all the fans, because like the news is just so rapid and it was so silent and quiet, and there was so many question marks that weren't really answered to a great degree during the offseason. And I mean, you just get the answers right away, and it's just, hey, by the way, this guy is capable of being an NFL quality starter. And I said it a couple months ago, I think there's a chance that this is the last left tackle of Patrick Mahomes' career. He's got 10-year plus talent. And I think you're already seeing it out there. So there's a chance that that's the case. All right, Maddie, before some of this Josh Simmons stuff came out today, we were also thinking about talking about the two right tackles for the Kansas City Chiefs. Are they appearing in your buy or sell game at all today?
Well, yes, we might talk about them in a buy or sell game. It's not mine, but a buy or sell game, yes.
Okay, so then here's the framework. Matty Lane is going to be doing he's going to be setting up a buy or sell game for both sides of the football. Early training camp buy or sell. I'll leave the rest of the explanation to you, Matthew.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to your favorite game show host. It is Youthful Regis. He is here with buy or a very poorly framed camera sell game here. We have Kent Hollywood Swanson fighting for his first ever win on this show. He is going up against the fans. That's right. We have polled 13 fans to get the answers to all of these questions that Kent must get correct. And these are all based around your Kansas City Chiefs training camp hype, tweets, videos, comments, and everything. Are you ready, Kent? What do you have to say for yourself?
I'm stunned. You generated a poll before this?
Sure.
Let's do it, man. I'm excited, Youthful Regis. Thanks for joining us today. I thought Matty Lane was producing this game, but I guess not. And what I appreciate about you is your glasses don't have the shine of a ring light in them anymore.
When I turn right here, I believe they do. But if I don't do that, we should be good.
It's back.
Amateur production here. That's okay. I'm only here for the day. Actually, I'm only here for the next 22 minutes. So, without further ado, the first question. These are all going to be statements based around hype around the Chiefs training camp, and you have to say whether you are buying or selling, and you must answer the same as the 13 fans that were polled before this started to receive a point. Are you ready?
Was it really 13 fans? Are you?
Yes.
You actually polled 13 real
100%.
You didn't ask Tucker 13 times. Okay.
No, I absolutely did not do that.
Okay.
Josh Simmons, the Chiefs starting left tackle, who you guys just talked about, wonderful job by that Matthew guy, will finish in the top 10 in Pro Bowl votes for offensive tackle. For a frame of reference, Joe Alt finished 6th last year as a rookie offensive tackle for the Los Angeles Chargers.
I am going to buy it because I think Chiefs fans will be ravenous if he goes out and plays well, which I think he will, and he's going to have a lot of attention on him because he is the starting left tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs. It's going to be a storyline, especially as the offense continues to ascend. him playing well, him playing capably. He doesn't have Joe Alt's draft pedigree, but he's going to have the story that is going to carry him to a Pro Bowl top 10 vote. He squeaks into the top 10 just barely, so I'm buying it.
That is 1 point for Kent Hollywood Swanson, as all 13 people polled agreed with him that Josh Simmons will finish in the top 10. It makes a ton of sense. Think about it. The Chiefs' offensive line woes were incredible last year. The left tackle, even worse. It makes sense if it's better. And Josh Simmons is the biggest thing that changes, that he is going to get a lot, not even sympathy votes, just like, hey, that kind of turned around votes. So easy one.
I think Matty Lane would have said something similar to that, youthful.
Yeah, probably. He gave me notes. Question 2. Tyquan Thornton will have over 200 receiving yards this year for the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, for reference, in 2023, Sky Moore had 244 receiving yards. In 2024, Juju Smith-Schuster had 231 receiving yards. Both of those guys finished as the fourth highest leading receiver for the Chiefs that season.
I think I'm going to sell it. I think it's a good line. I think it's an interesting line. I'm going to sell it. Here's a few reasons why. Justin Watson had 289 receiving yards in 2024. He is not, I don't know if Tyquan Thornton is going to be able to replace that production. So we're 89 yards away from that. Well, let's look at Rashee Rice and his return into this offense. Like, I think the opportunities start to diminish a little bit for Tyquan Thornton as the season goes on a little bit. I think he's going to, I think there's a chance he makes the roster. Like, I feel pretty good. Like, I think he might make the roster breaking out of the camp, especially if they have answers on Rashee Rice immediately. But I don't know if I am buying that he is going to be a big piece of this offense, or a big piece of this offense enough to get, or any piece of this offense enough to get 200 receiving yards on the entirety of the season.
This one's a little tricky because it appears that Thornton might be in line for not a substantial, but some opportunities as an X wide receiver, especially early in the year if Rashee Rice is to miss some time. Him and Patrick Mahomes appear in camp to be building some chemistry. He seems to be getting some reps. So there might be snaps available to him, especially early in the year. And all it takes is one DeMarcus Robinson game versus the Las Vegas Raiders to get close when you are in that role for this Chiefs. Right. And if we're talking about a guy that can run 4.28, it just takes 1 or 2 games. Essentially, 200 yards? We could do that in 3 catches when you have speed like that. Right. So it's tricky. This voting was closer. This voting came down to a 7-6. You got second point, Kent Hollywood Swanson. The 13 people were a little more split, but you are up 2 points right now. You are on a tear. Are you feeling good? Are you getting nervous?
I feel great. I am very nervous, though. This is the closest to success I've ever had in this game ever.
This is true. It's good that you're not playing at an opponent. Number 3, Rashee Rice will finish top 10 in receiving yards per game this year.
Oh, I'm buying that. I think
for reference, he was 16th last year. And T. Higgins was in 10th place. They were separated by 5.5 yards per game.
I am buying it because that average is baked into that 4th game against the Los Angeles Chargers. And so that was doing some damage to Rashee Rice's stat lines in 2024. You look at the 3-game average, I bet you it's a lot better and probably well into the top 10. I think Rashee Rice is going to have a tremendous season whenever he does get on the field. I think you saw that early last season, and I don't think this team has any intentions of slowing that hype train down. I think he's going to lead this team in receiving yards per game when he returns, and he will be top 10 in the National Football League when it's all said and done.
Yeah, it's tough because there's a lot of really good wide receivers in the NFL right now, right? And we're talking about Rashee Rice. He's going to miss some time. He's going to have to end up coming back and then work his way back into the offense. So you know if there's going to be not rust, but a little bit of time to gel within the system. And all it takes, especially if you're going to be 4 games short, a slow couple weeks to start can make that a very difficult hill to climb, especially because you probably are looking at having to get about 77 plus receiving yards per game. Can be a little tight. I will say that. On the other hand, these are the notes here from the Matthew fella. Rasheed Rice looked really good in these training camp clips that we've seen. Some of those releases that he's putting out there, he's kind of learned like, hey, I maybe don't have the quickest footwork around, but what I do have is I'm big and I'm strong. So when you want to put your 5'11" corner with 22-inch arms across from me, I can push him around and maybe club him in the head and catch a little comeback. Maybe I can push off your slot corner or your third or fourth corner who has no ability to cover me down the field and catch a ball over my shoulder because I am bigger and stronger than him. It appears that Rice is getting better at the line of scrimmage, which really will open up his route tree to not just be another version of slant guy. Shout out Michael Thomas in the NFL.
Slant boy.
I was elevating him and not trying to belittle him because I respect Rasheed Rice. Hollywood.
Slant,
that's
dude.
negative. That's negative points. So you are back to only being up 1. Good job. Got to write that down. All right. But you earned that point right back because 14 out of the 13 people voted yes. So therefore, you got that point as well because everybody is confident in Rasheed Rice right now. The vibes are incredibly high for him. You have one more offensive question here on buy or sell. This one's a doozy. Jalen Moore will start 4+ games for the Kansas City Chiefs this year. For reference, there's nothing that really matters here. He has been rotating in at right tackle with Jawan Taylor throughout camp. So do you think Jalen Moore will start 4+ games for the Chiefs this year?
Very interesting line that you've set.
You are welcome.
Yeah. And if I'm going to give an answer that I think Matty Lane would appreciate. And I think the answer is I will buy that he starts 4. The reason I will buy he starts 4 has nothing to do with whether or not he is in a competition with Jawan Taylor at the right tackle position or whether or not I think that Josh Simmons will lose his job opportunity or lose his job. I think that, this is a very fragile position for the Kansas City Chiefs. Jawan Taylor has had some health issues here. He's just returning from the PUP list. His knee had to be managed last season. Josh Simmons, I don't think we're going to have any. I'm hoping that we don't have any injury issues, but I think there's a chance that Jalen Moore starts 4 games at the right tackle spot in replacement of Jawan Taylor, who is the clear-cut obvious starter and is not in a real competition with Jalen Moore for the right spot. I think it will ultimately be Jawan Taylor starting in week 1 if he is healthy, but I do think that there's a chance that injuries do put Jalen Moore into a situation where he has to play a few games this season. Not predicting injury, just looking at kind of the averages and the law of averages and some of the health concerns of this group. I think it's fair to say that he could sneak in there for 4 games during the season. So I will buy that Jalen Moore starts 4, but not because of performance of the other 2 starting tackles for this football team.
Logically, that makes sense. Injuries do happen. We have seen with the Chiefs that they have struggled to stay healthy along the offensive line. Unfortunately, the 13 people polled did not agree with you. So you are going to be losing a point on this one, although I do think you made a valiant argument. It's okay. Something just happened. Okay, cool. So an extension for my computer just updated. That was fun. I thought I crashed. We are back and we are here. Kent has 1 point remaining before we go over the defense, but I want to say real quick or ask you, do you think that this is actual competition at right tackle? Or do you think that they are just working Jawan Taylor back into football shape because he hasn't been doing anything while recovering from offseason surgery that was an injury that he played through for the remainder of the end of last season?
I'm so glad you asked me that question because I think I think it's twofold. So one, Jalen Moore, and one of the things that you've kind of harped on a little bit, or not, sorry, you, Regis, I don't know your stance on this, but I know Matty Lane has harped a little bit on the lack of opportunity at the right tackle spot for Jalen Moore in the history of his NFL career. There's been a lot of speculation that Jalen Moore would be a guy that could play both sides of the ball, play a little bit of right tackle, something Andy Reid cited during the pre-draft process. I think this is serving twofold. I think, you're easing Jawan Taylor into the process. You're managing Jawan Taylor. You know what you have in Jawan Taylor at this point in his career. And you also know that you probably need to manage that knee a little bit. He is a better tackle than Jalen Moore. So I don't think it's a competition. I think it's a opportunity to give Jalen Moore some reps developing as a right tackle in case they need him. Because again, Jalen Moore's health. So you're giving Jalen Moore some of those chances to work in there, get ready and developed in case the Chiefs do need to throw Jalen Moore out there at the right tackle spot. You're managing Jawan Taylor, but I do think Jawan Taylor is the starter for 2025. Now, this could be a precursor to the 2026 season where Jalen Moore slips over to the right tackle spot and is a starter for this team at a very reasonable price point. If the team does want to do that, then you've kind of got your 5 offensive linemen that you can roll out in 2026 already on the roster for that upcoming season. So I think that's kind of how this team is looking at it. And I think, I think Jalen Moore is not in serious competition at the right tackle spot, but he's getting opportunities to develop there.
For some context, Jalen Moore throughout his collegiate and NFL career has played over 3,400 snaps at left tackle and a measly 55 at right tackle. And those 55 did come with the San Francisco 49ers back in 2021, but that is it. Every other snap has been at left tackle. Just worth noting as it goes forward. I have been told that Matthew does not think that this is much of a true competition and more of Jawaan Taylor is probably getting worked back in. You don't try to remove a top 10 to 15 right tackle in the NFL in hopes that a swing tackle that you just signed is going to be better immediately. That just is a little silly.
I'll just add, I think it's a little, I think it's, there's a lot of people that like are very unfair to Jawaan Taylor. I think. And like you said, like he's a top 10 to 15 right tackle. Like that's still a reality with the issues that he's had and the frustrations and the visibility of getting all those penalties. He still is like a top 15 tackle on the right side. So I don't think, I think the hate has gone way too far on Jawaan Taylor. Like this is a good football player, probably not worth what he's going to be paid in 2026, which is why this is probably his last season.
Both can be true.
Both can be true. So I think that's why I can't foresee this being a legitimate competition. The Jalen Moore is not to the same caliber right now as Jawaan Taylor over on the right side.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We have finished the offensive portion of buy or sell with Kent Hollywood baby back Swanson with 1 point with 3 questions to go. And we will get to those questions right after this break.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
I'm BJ Kissel, founder and CEO of KC Sports Network. Emprise Bank has been with us from the beginning. They were our first network partner, and they believed in the vision of what we were building from the start. I can't speak to any other banks or companies and how they operate, but I can tell you from personal experience and based on the growth of the network you're listening to right now, that if you have banking needs, call our friends at Emprise Bank. We've worked with so many great people there over the years, from Vicky and Aggie to Andrea, Lori, Jackie, Deb, and Aaron, and not to mention so many others that not just supported KC Sports Network, but supported our KCSN Foundation as well. But the best thing that I know is that if I have a question or a problem, no matter how dumb the question is, I know who I'm going to call and who I'm going to talk to, and I know that I'm getting an answer from someone that I can trust, and I know that person is there to help us. That's why Emprise Bank has always been and continues to be our partner in Possible, and they can be yours too. You just have to reach out. If you have a banking need, whether it's business or personal, hit me up. I will connect you directly with the same people that have helped us build KCSN. And that's our friends at Emprise Bank.
Folks, nothing beats hanging out with the boys on a hot summer day and watching some baseball. And the simplest way that you all can get in on the action is to download the Pick 6 app from DraftKings. It is crazy simple. Just pick more or less on the stats for 2 or more of your favorite players, and boom, you're in the mix for big cash prizes. And the best part is, Pick 6 is available right here in Missouri. Don't miss out on the fun. Don't settle for a smaller payout. Switch to Pick 6, and right now, new customers can get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Here's what you got to do. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and then use code KCSN. That's code KCSN for new customers to get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Void where prohibited. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Bonus picks expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see picksix.com. www.draftkings.com/promos.
Welcome back to the KC Laboratory. We are in the middle of a game of buy or sell with Youthful Regis and Kent Hollywood. Babyback Swanson has 1 point trying to get his first win in a game on this lovely show. So, Kent, how you feeling? We're at the halfway mark here. You feeling good? You feeling strong?
Well, only up 1 point with my strength, with my strong side of the ball. I'm not feeling particularly good because I could see the defense being a challenge for this old quarterback. So like it used to be. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Interesting that you think these are all defensive questions. All right. First up, George Karlaftis, fresh off a fat payday, is going to have a career high in sacks this season. For reference, his career high is 10.5 in 2023.
I will say no. I do not think he will achieve the 10 sack mark again this season. That doesn't mean there won't be some strides. That doesn't mean there won't be a few more quick pressures. And that doesn't mean that he won't continue to have tremendous value to this defense. 10's a pretty big number if we're being honest, though. 10.5 is a bigger number. And that, I mean, we're really saying that is 11. We're saying a career high is of 11. Like that's a pretty big number. I don't think he gets there. I think it's an under, but I don't think that diminishes the value that he has on this football team in 2025.
So this is a tight one. Again, another close vote, only separated by 1 point, but the 13 fans polled were on your side. By 1 vote yet again, you are back up to 2 points despite talking down on the defense. Everybody likes Karlaftis. He seems like he's been off to a good, strong start in camp here. But it does seem like everybody, fans in general, are like, hey, we know that he's not a 15 to 20 sack in a season kind of guy. That's not his game. It's the everything else that he does is where the value is. So I do think that people are settling in on what he likes. I will say this year could be interesting. Chris Jones is getting older. Maybe you no longer can. The schemed up stuff maybe isn't always how do we get Chris Jones one-on-one. Maybe a few more looks designed specifically for Karlaftis from that great defensive coordinator they got over there in Steve Spagnuolo. Maybe he gets not free ones, but maybe he gets a couple more that would have typically gone to Chris Jones in the past. Just food for thought going out there. We talked about Rashee Rice taking over for Travis Kelce as he ages. Maybe Karlaftis starts to take a step forward in the pass rush. Not passing Chris Jones, but getting some more opportunities as the guy plays are designed for. So we will see.
And I also think like another argument to be made kind of like in favor of that is like, I think one of the things that the Chiefs are hoping to get back to is the 2023 version of themselves where, the secondary was able to mix and match and mix some things in there and put Trent McDuffie in the slot more and kind of, get the offense to hold the ball a tick longer, right? Get them just thinking a little bit more, being more dynamic in the back seven because you've got the horses to do it. And if that's the case, like that plays well for George Karlaftis too, because if they are holding on the ball just a tick longer, maybe George Karlaftis is able to have more counting statistic production like sacks. So, I mean, that would be another argument I think you could make towards, George getting an opportunity to eclipse that 10.5 number.
That is a very good point. The coverage is going to play a huge role. We will get to that in a minute.
Oh.
But next up, Omar Norman Lott, the Chiefs' second-round draft pick, who's been dealing with a little bit of an ankle injury the past 2 days at practice, but has been out there, will play greater than 48% of the snaps this season. For context, Tershawn Wharton played 62% of the snaps last season at defensive tackle. That is the prominent role that we would be expecting Omar Norman Lott to take over.
There seems to be more
and
buzz.
For reference, Tershawn Wharton played 48% of the snaps on the dot as a rookie, as a backup 3 tech. So do with that what you will, Mr. Hollywood Babyback Swanson.
We good? Am I good? Is this thing on? Good? Okay.
1 point penalty for stalling. Delay of game. You are down to 1 point with 2 questions left.
I am taking the over on the 48% of the snaps for Omar Norman Lott, and I think there's a couple pieces of logic here. One, you're right. Great point. I think that's a great point on Tershawn Wharton, his rookie year snap count. I think that's a great line to set. I do think that there's more optimism that he can play in more of a early down role than what he showed at Tennessee. I think that the expectation might be that there's more snaps out there and available to be had along the interior of the defensive line. When you're looking at Chris Jones, who is an aging star. You're looking at Pennell. And then there's wild cards. There's Jerry Tillery. There's there's a Fabian Levette that might get his name called, but there's opportunity out there. There's opportunity out there for Omar Norman-Lott to be getting some snaps. And so if Chris Jones sees a decline, just a small decline in his stats, there's opportunity. And Mike Pennell, so who's going to be eating up more of those snaps? I think it's got to be over 48 for Omar Norman-Lott at this point. And maybe a Tillery can step in there and do some stuff too. But I think there's a belief and an expectation that Omar Norman-Lott can do more than just be a Turk Wharton sub rusher as a rookie. I think there's some expectation, especially since he's put 25 pounds on since he tested at the NFL Combine. He's looking bigger. He's looking more svelte. Maybe he can play as a one tech a little bit more than we're kind of thinking or what we saw out of him at Tennessee. So I'm taking over.
You make good points. However, only 4 of the 13 fans polled agreed with you. So you have lost a point, and if you found yourself even, you do make good points. I will say some feedback that was given was it appears that Mike Dana's getting a lot more run as an interior defensive lineman during training camp. And not that he's not going to play on the edge too, but what if we see a little bit more Dana eating into some of those sub rusher reps as well? We already know Charles Omenihu can kick inside. Gelati has done it, and they've mentioned it when he got drafted. He has done it in college. The Chiefs just kind of have a handful of guys that can kick inside that might eat into some of the sub package rushing reps. And it would help if Norman-Lott can play as an actual one tech as a run stuffer. But that's not something that we have seen from him when you go back to Arizona State or Tennessee right now. So it appears that fans, while not down on him, just think that he might be a little bit more of a sub-package player in this first season. And I think I can understand that. So here we are, Kent, Hollywood, baby, back Swanson. The final question. You get this right, you win your first game. You get this wrong, and you lose yet again in an embarrassing fashion after 2 flagrant fouls that you have committed during this game. All right.
I screwed myself up is really what I did. But
Shamari Connor will play over 400 snaps in the slot this season. For reference, he played 469 slot snaps in 2024. This season, do you think that he goes higher than 400 snaps from the slot specifically? The reason this is a question, with Christian Fulton being injured, Trent McDuffie, while he's played some in the slot, they keep mentioning him as an outside corner. We seem to be getting a lot of Shamari Connor in the slot, a lot of these clips coming out of training camp. He's been there a lot. So what say you, Kent Swanson?
I think I'm going to sell it. I think Christian Fulton has enough chops as an outside corner. I think, Jalen Watson as an outside corner, both of those guys being healthy for a large swath of the season will reduce Shamari Connor's opportunities to be playing inside. And if that's the case, like if we've got healthy for a large enough sample size, then I do think this team will play their best 3, and their best 3 is likely to be Jalen Watson, and Christian Fulton with Trent McDuffie inside. I'll also add, I think Noel Williams is on the ascent too. So if you're getting some opportunities at outside corner for Noel Williams too, that means you've got to find a place to put Trent McDuffie as well. So I think there's more options at outside, allows you the flexibility for Trent McDuffie, and you can still play Trent McDuffie majority outside, but his impact from the slot is it's tremendous. And I think this team wants to get back to that. And I think the best version is that this defense have had him playing more in the slot than he got the opportunity to last year. So I do think the number is reduced for Shamari Connor from the slot. And I think they go with some of the more established and better options that they might have at outside, giving them free reign of Trent McDuffie, putting him in the middle of the field a little bit more often. I think that's the route. So I will take, I'm selling Shamari Connor over 400.
Well, Kent, you have finally done it. You have finally gone through an entire game show here where you have come out the loser again. 13 votes said he is going over 400 snaps in the slot.
13?
Unfortunately, Steve Spagnuolo absolutely loves Shamari Connor, and every time he gets up on the podium, talks about the 800 different ways they can use him, most specifically in the slot. Every time we see an 11-on-11 rep or anything coming from camp, it is Shamari Connor in the slot, usually getting toasted by anybody. However, it does appear that that is the plan that they are using going forward. I am very intrigued to see if we maybe get some Jaden Hicks in there, if we get some more Christian Roland Wallace as the camp goes on. But as of right now, the 13 fans polled were not on your side. They are selling your performance in this game once again, and they are disgusted by it.
That checks out. I have nobody to blame but myself this time. I think the judges were fair in my delay of game penalty and my sarcasm and my tone. I probably earned 2 points.
What's up, guys? What happened? How was the game, Kemp?
I lost, Maddie.
Oh, man. Tough. Was it
Again.
close? Did you have a chance?
I had a chance.
That's tough.
I went full Jamar Chase against the self-inflicted, some personal fouls that kind of kept me from really winning this game. I do have a feeling though that if I was somehow at 3 points by the last question, that last question probably would have been worth 4 for some reason. So I think I think there's probably a chance of that happening. So I'm so used to this. I kind of have a pretty good beat on how these things go, but
you're taking it well.
I think it's more just the acceptance phase. I think that's just kind of where I've been for anytime I see those glasses in the ring light, I just get to an acceptance phase very quickly.
I don't know what you possibly could mean by that, but
I'll explain it to you sometime.
I'll have to watch it back and see how it goes.
Yeah, you might have to do that. I'm just glad you got a nice little break so you could go play whatever game on Steam you were playing. I don't remember what it was called, but I hope you enjoyed yourself in the meantime.
Banger sound.
Anyways, you want to talk about linebackers?
Oh, absolutely. I would love nothing more.
Okay, so we've been ranking our top 10 at each position into the 2025 season, and we only have 2 positions left. I think it's linebacker today, and then it's D tackle on Wednesday with Craig?
Correct. Because Craig said absolutely no chance of my ranking linebackers do that without me.
I will say before we get in too far into the linebacker conversation, it really does feel like linebackers absolutely are kind of the running back of the defensive side of the ball. The devaluation of the linebacker does seem very apparent. And going through this list was very tough. I feel like there was a lot of players that you could make a case for, and maybe a lot of players you don't have a ton of conviction about either at the linebacker spot. It's kind of a unique position where, first off, there's 3 of them. There's 3 of them with 3 different skill sets a lot of times on the field. I don't think I have any Sam linebackers, so it's primarily Mike and Will linebackers that are on my list. But it does feel like the linebacker position is lacking a lot of depth and strength when you're looking at the top 10 of the linebackers compared to the top 10 of just about any other position. I'm okay. I guess I can give you 10 names, but I don't know if I feel super convicted about half of them.
Listen, I think we just need to get to this. We just need to get to the rankings. I think that is the best way to describe what is going on.
Okay. How many tiers do you have, Matthew?
How many do you have, Kent?
I think I have 5.
Okay. I have less.
I think I'll go first then.
Yeah, well, we can do it. Yeah, you can go first. I'll go second.
I'll go first this time because I think I might have more tiers than you. I'm not remember exactly how many tiers I have, but
okay. Give me your first tier. Give me your 10 through whatever.
All right, let's go. I think it's 10 through 8 is the emerging athletes. These are 3 young players that are not Quincy Williams not young, but they're quality athletes. They're high quality athletes that can impact the game with some range, with some athleticism, with some coverage chops, with some sideline to sideline range. And Jack Campbell is the guy that kicks things off for me. I think he had a very good season last year. I think he's an emerging and ascending player. I remember he was a freakish athlete coming out of Iowa that a lot of people were surprised. He's a height, weight, speed guy, kind of not entirely the same as a Leo Chanel, obviously, because like I think Jack Campbell has a more diverse skill set than Leo, but just kind of a bigger linebacker that kind of surprised some people with the athleticism. Jack Campbell. Quincy Williams is a elite chase player and a really high quality coverage linebacker. And then DeMarvion Overshone has really exceeded what I thought he was coming out of the draft. And he's really ascended recently as a young linebacker. And I think his rookie season kind of got derailed, but he had a tremendous season for the Cowboys last year. So that is my emerging athletes tier for the linebacker spot.
Yeah, I like it. I get all those names make a lot of sense where they are. Jack Campbell's interesting to me because like he hasn't been exactly what I thought he was going to be with the Lions yet. So far, it's not bad. It's just he's been a little bit different. Like he's taken a back seat in the like middle linebacker, I control the field kind of role for Alex Anzalone. Shout out, big fan of Anzalone coming out of Florida all them years ago. Found footing there. But just taking a back seat to him was not kind of what I had expected. And he's been operating almost exclusively like as a will type linebacker. So interesting, like to see where he ends up going from here. For me, I have two tiers. And you can see them here. This tier is known as Not Fred Warner. And there is roughly 9 names in the Not Fred Warner tier. Now, I'm not a savage, though, okay? I did break this tier down into a couple different subclasses, if you will. Okay? These are my health concerns, but they're still not Fred Warner. And at number 10, we have DeMarvion Overshone. In number 9, we have Matt Milano. Number 8, we have Dre Greenlaw. You kind of covered it with Overshone. He's been a lot better than I thought that he was going to be. He's kind of like, he doesn't have, I thought his arms were a lot longer than they are because he kind of plays like Tremaine Edmonds where he's just always in the way of stuff, but they're actually just like 50th percentile. I wanted to look that up before he started. But yeah, he's just kind of always in the right spot. Good athlete, always in the right spot. The problem is he's been hurt the last 2 seasons. And like, I don't know how he's going to come back from that. Matt Milano, always hurt. But when he's healthy and able to play, he flies around the field, super smart, makes a lot of tackles, good in coverage when not trying to guard Travis Kelce. And then finally, Dre Greenlaw, probably the lowest down on the rung in terms of coverage, but he's got that like Lance Briggsness to him where he's going to be the nail next to a little bit more athletic linebacker, but he's not smart, if that makes sense. He's a very intelligent stuffing linebacker that's going to be very physical. He can play some, hook zones out in the flat and stuff. He's not a man coverage guy, but a very smart, good run defender that's not lacking athleticism. He's just not an elite coverage linebacker, but he can do so much more than just be a thumper. And so if any of these guys can return to health, I think they have a pretty good claim to be in the top 10.
I think it's good. The Matt Milano one is one I struggled with. Like I definitely thought about putting him. I love watching him when he's playing healthy. I mean, he's a really fun, highly instinctual football player. And I mean, there was a stretch where his name would have been called a lot earlier on this list. Injuries have kind of sapped that a little bit, and that's been a tricky one to kind of evaluate.
Comment section. These are not different tiers. All these players in this tier can be intermingled, whatever order you want. I just group them together, as you will see as we go through, based on their skills. These are not tiers. My number 10 could be number 2. That's completely fine. You will see as we go through, these are 100% classes within the same tier. Okay? So calm down, comment section.
All right, my next tier. It is the smarts. I gave Levante David at number 7, Dre Greenlaw, your guy at number 6, and Nick Bolton, number 5. Ooh. This is the smart, intelligent group revered for their football IQ. Levante David, like he's been an exceptional athlete in the past, and he still is a good athlete, but he's also 35 and aging. So his brain is definitely what is endearing me to him more these days than it is just the pure athleticism. But this is a group of smart football players. This is a group of smart, talented football players that maybe don't have the range or athleticism, but they make up for it with the high level communication, the football IQ, the trust, the smarts, all of those good things. So that's my smarts tier.
Bolton's not in my top 10. He'd be fighting for a 10th-ish spot if none of those guys that I had the health concerns on don't come back healthy, if that makes sense. Like Bolton's my first guy out, so he'd be 11. He just didn't quite make it because I wanted to put, hey, if those guys come back healthy, they're over him. I mean, you put him in the right tier. He's very intelligent. He gets everybody in the right spots. For what he lacks in terms of like athleticism, especially laterally, and the ability to change directions, he makes up for by being in the right spots, for having a knack of making big plays in the right place. So I was actually surprised you had Bolton that high. You are notoriously pretty not the biggest believer in Nick Bolton's game. So I was a little surprised you had him that high, but I think that goes to your point of, hey, look around the NFL. This is what linebackers are.
I think the league lacks I do think I think how you framed it is probably the best way of framing it. Is just there's Fred Warner and then there's everybody else, and there's a gap between Fred Warner and everybody else.
Yeah,
I just think it's like flavors. Like, how are you evaluating flavors? Like, I think like you said, like some of the guys that I had in that tier behind the smarts, you're looking at like, maybe not 100% of the snap type players, right? And like, whatever we want to say, like about, some of the deficiencies of Bolton, he's on the field a lot. They can't get him off the field in dime because they just trust his value with the football IQ too much. Now, doesn't mean there's not deficiencies. Like, there still is legitimate gripe with coverage, and there's some of those issues there that still exist with him and probably won't go away because like he's not going to get more athletic as the course of the season or as the course of his career goes on. But I think the older I've got, the more I've appreciated the football intelligence side of things when it comes to linebackers. And I think that's the way of the defensive coordinators too. Like, a couple of those guys in that list right there got paid this offseason, and it's for, it's not because they're elite coverage chops, right? It's because of what they provide intangibly. And I think in a league that is lacking dynamic, there's no dynamic talent at the linebacker position anymore. The dynamic talent is either a smaller edge rusher or it's there's a couple of guys we'll talk about here.
Okay, yeah, hold on. Let's just go ahead and pull up my second tier here of the not Fred Warners and look at class 2. Okay, which is maybe Fred Warner light, but still not Fred Warner. And we have Deion Henley and Edgerrin Cooper. And these are the two guys that I would push back to say they are dynamic athletes at the linebacker position. I think both guys have flashed coverage traits as young players in the NFL that get them to that level where you are a true 3-down player that actually matters a little bit. You aren't immediately bullseyed by every offense going up against you. Every offense isn't designing every single play to get one of their 18 receiving options one-on-one with you, because I think Cooper and Henley have shown enough in coverage to say, hey, if they keep progressing as they get more experience, they can get to that point, which is rare. And then for Henley, more so than Cooper, I think he just needs to keep developing his like eyes in the run game. He can be a little slow to see stuff, but he changed positions late in his college career. So while he's not a super young guy anymore, he's still newer to the linebacker spot. So you see him getting better year over year. And Cooper, I mean, listen, his change from Texas A&M to the NFL is night and day, just mentally. Everything seems to be clicking for him real fast. And if he keeps that up, he might continue to fly up this list. So these two guys, I think, like have the potential to maybe create a actual third tier of linebackers, just be below Fred Warner, because they kind of show me a little bit of everything that I need from a linebacker at this level.
Those two did not make my list.
So you hate athletes.
I think they kind of sit in that emerging athlete category. Yeah. That's kind of where, and like, so like they were part of that bucket of emerging athletes. So they did not wind up.
Yeah. No, I think that's completely fair. Those two in particular to me have shown more, I would just say, coverage instincts, but they're young. I mean, a little bit younger, a little bit less stuff out there. Like, that's why I said they separated them from me. Let's see.
No, they were considered. I'll just say that they were considered for this exercise. Anyways, I do think that okay. Yeah, no, it's fine. Move on, Tuck.
Yes.
You're ready. 3-down impact. These are guys that this is Zach Bond at number 3, Frankie Louvu at number 4. These are guys that provide impact on third down, not just being on the field like at Bolton. It's really impacting the game with the athleticism, with the blitzing ability, with the rushing ability. These are that players that can really can disrupt the quarterback in different ways when you get to third down. And I think Zach Bond had an incredible career renaissance with the Eagles. And, I think we liked him a lot coming out of college. Like, he was a fun prospect that, like, you try to figure out how to weaponize him. And I think you can find something good for him. The Eagles finally figured that out, and he had a tremendous season. So give me Frankie Louvu at number 4 and Zach Bond at number 3.
Well, let's put up my next tier, which I believe my next class, not tier, sorry, is rushing linebackers that are not Fred Warner.
Hey!
We have Frankie Louvu at number 5 and Zach Bond at number 4. Again, I want to reiterate, this isn't saying these are tiers. Zach Bond could be 10, Frankie Louvu could be 8, and Dre Greenlaw could be 4. It doesn't matter the order of people in this tier. This is just where they fall because they are, as Ken said, I think these guys are rushers. Like I can use these guys on all 3 downs, but it's not just as a traditional stack linebacker because hey, neither one of them have the best eyes for deciphering traffic or finding the ball. Neither one of them are reading out plays, going through their keys one by one, or showing consistent like instincts and a feel in coverage because that's not what they do. They say, hey, it's 3rd and 7. Guess what? We don't need you to run the pole. I don't need you to, reroute number 3 and then fall off and take a cloud under number 2 or anything like that. You know what I need you to do? I need you to rush. Go rush. Go do that. Okay, that's good. It's helpful. It's useful. And like they are good enough on other downs, but like I don't think that they are able to go out there and do everything that you would typically expect from a stack linebacker. So they fall into this class of the not Fred Warner tier.
My next tier. Elite. Roquan Smith. Still think he's an elite football player, well-rounded. I think he's had a really good run with the Baltimore Ravens. This is a guy that can do a lot on every down. He has the smarts. He has good athleticism good range. I think he's the closest to being Fred Warner still in the National Football League, but he still is not the same. He's still built different, but still, I mean, when you're looking at the totality of the linebacker group, he's still an elite linebacker. He's got it all. There's really not a ton of holes in this game. So give me Roquan Smith at number 2, an elite linebacker.
My next class in my second tier of linebackers is the good veterans that are not Fred Warner. And we have Levante David at number 3 and Roquan Smith at number 2. Roquan has long standing been the second best linebacker in the NFL. I think last year he took a step back. I think that if going into last year, I might have separated a 3rd tier for him. Just him. But last year, I thought he really struggled in coverage. He really felt when Kyle Hamilton was like not playing actual safety, but playing in the slot, and it was just Roquan Smith having to handle the middle of the field. He felt like he was playing stressed. He maybe looked like he has lost a step from what he had before, and he was never the rangiest, best in coverage linebacker, but he had just enough. He may have lost half a step. He maybe didn't feel as comfortable when he didn't have that help over the top. So I do think that he maybe slid back into this entire giant second tier, but he is in the class there with Levante David, who obviously is towards the end of his career, but he still is in the right spot the vast majority of the time. There's still enough juice. I think he was a little bit healthier last year. So I do think that 2 years ago, people were ready to call it quits on him. I think he bounced back pretty well last year. So he is still inside the top 10 in this giant 9-person tier of non-Fred Warners.
I don't want to steal your thunder, Maddie, but I do think we need to go to my next tier. It's just Fred.
Just Fred.
Number 1, Fred Warner. Look, this is one of the best linebackers in the history of the National Football League. This is one of the most unique linebackers we've seen in a league full of good at a few things, or really good at a few things. For linebackers, Fred Warner is good at everything. And even in a year where he had injury issues, he was still awesome for large stretches of the season. He has incredible instincts. He has incredible athleticism, coverage chops. He can line up against a Travis Kelce and hold his own. He's got sideline to sideline range. He has everything you would ever want in a linebacker. He is one of the greatest in a lineage of great linebackers for San Francisco. He is yet another one. I think he's a gold jacket guy when it's all said and done. I think he already is a gold jacket. I think he'd hang up tomorrow and he would get a gold jacket. That's how good Fred Warner is. I think he's the standard for the modern day linebacker, and there just frankly isn't any like him. There's really not a ton of guys in this league that are like him, and I don't know if there's really a ton of players that can even attempt to be what Fred Warner has been in this league. So, the Fred Warner tier.
Let's see my top tier, my final tier of only 2 is the Fred Warner tier. It is, in fact, Fred Warner.
Wow.
Shocking. I will do Kent one better. Fred Warner didn't just play hurt last year. He played with a broken ankle for the vast majority of the year and was still the best. But if you want to tell me that Zach Bond had a bigger impact just last year, I could maybe be swayed. But Fred Warner was still, for my money, the best linebacker playing with a fractured ankle. Think about that. Behind a San Francisco 49ers defensive line that was pretty junky. It was pretty bad, especially up the middle. They had one of the worst defensive line iterations they have ever put in front of a linebacker, Fred Warner's style. And straight up, Fred Warner is not your best thumper. He is not your best run defender, downhill, take on blocks, shed them and make the tackle. He can do it when he absolutely has to, but he's winning versus the run by getting to his spots early, by slipping blocks. And when you have a defensive line that can't help you out at all, it gets difficult. And he still was, again, one of the best two linebackers in the NFL last year, the most impactful two linebackers. Nobody else in the NFL has a linebacker where offenses have to say, we have to do stuff differently on this play because of that guy. I have watched Fred Warner play the wrong technique on purpose just so he can trick quarterbacks and try to get them to throw the ball where he wants to. I have watched offenses actively have to change their play design to make sure that they weren't running stuff behind him because he erases the middle of the field. He has safety range as a middle linebacker. If we're talking about getting from one hash to the other side out to the numbers, it's unbelievable what he can do with his IQ, his athleticism, the plays he makes in coverage, the adjustments that he makes. He's not just a gold jacket linebacker. He's on the Mount Rushmore of linebackers of all time in the NFL. He's one of the top four. I mean, you can start to argue and nitpick where you're going. Fred Warner and Luke Kuechly, I think, are the only two linebackers that are like locks, that are staples on there. We can figure out what we want to do with some of our other two, your Derek Brookses, your Ray Lewises, your Brian Urlachers. Like, we can
Mike Ditka.
Others. No. But Fred Warner and Luke Kuechly are like locked in. Patrick Willis is probably locked in too. So you probably have 3 of the 4 spots locked in, but you can do whatever you want with the last one. But
Bobby Wagner.
Absolutely not. So Fred Warner is always going to have his own tier. I think it's going to be, he's going to fall off before somebody catches him in the modern day of the NFL. Don't think anybody is really particularly close.
Buck Buchanan.
Okay.
That's going to do it for this episode of the KC Laboratory.
No.
Yeah, well, absolutely not.
Unbelievable. I did all this work for this consensus list for Kent just to try to blow through it.
Oh,
I actually got it
I
right
forgot
this time.
about this. This is awesome. I love
He
it.
would have remembered if he would have looked at the chat. It's okay. Whatever. Fred Warner's a consensus. He got 20 out of 20 points. Roquan Smith, number 2, 18 out of 20. Zach Bond, 15 out of 20. Frankie Louvu, 13 out of 20. Levante David, 12 points out of the possible 20. This is where it starts to get interesting because you're going to start seeing some guys that didn't show up on either one of your guys' list. Demarion Overshawn, a guy that did show up on both of your lists, did not have as many points as Edrin Cooper, who was at 8, who showed up pretty high on Maddie's list. But
Well, to be fair, Maddie didn't want to ascribe numbers to all these guys. I think it just kind of happened like that, right?
no, he gave me numbers.
Okay.
This is behind the under the table numbers is what I got.
Okay.
But Matt Milano 10. So yeah, there's your consensus list.
I like it. I'm
a good
okay
list
with
right
that
there.
list. I'm okay with that list. I'm completely comfortable with that. I think it's fine. Maybe Youthful Regis should close the show out. I think I've lost.
Youthful Regis, I think, is taking a lozenge.
Okay. That's fine. That's going to do it for this episode of the KC Laboratory. Thank you all so much for listening, watching, supporting. We love you. We appreciate you. We catch you later.
Kent Swanson is officially 0-13 in game shows on the KC Laboratory.